James.
Steve?
Been a minute.
It has been a minute.
Since we sat in the old squeaky leather chairs in the recording booth here.
We need to purchase new furniture because I'm already uncomfortable.
Feel free to donate. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we invite you to donate unashamedandafraid.com/donate, which allows us to pay for things not like squeaky chairs. That's the stuff we pay for out of our own pocket. But to pay for scholarships to help people come to boot camp, Harvard, and different things. The resources we've found that are really helpful, and it also helps us spread this message of hope. We've had a lot of cool experiences with our outsiders, and our outsiders are those who have donated, who are bold, accepted, and unashamed of helping people find hope from not committing suicide, saving marriages, finding God, and some really impactful experiences because all of you have helped us in order to share this message. So we invite you to go and donate and to follow us on social media at Unashamed and Afraid. And with that, we're going to get in the studio here with a couple of cool folks.
Yes, indeed. Ian and Niccole.
Ian and Niccole, what's up?
What's going on?
How's it going?
Now, I think, James and I work in therapy land where disclosure about interpersonal relationships and things are important. So I think at the start of this podcast, Niccole, it's important to name that we just say out loud that you have a relationship, which I'll let you name what the relationship is, with my wife, Kayla.
Yes. Kayla and I, depending on the day, may be closer than you and Kayla, depending on the setting. I don't know. I kind of think she's kind of like my sister wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I had to put a name on it. It was like love at first sight if I had to tell our story, but not here to tell Kayla and I's story, but that's how it feels.
Wow.
Although I think it would be worth having Niccole and Kayla on
Right.
to potentially share that story.
Sure.
I think so.
Yes, that could be interesting. Okay, so, and what Niccole doesn't know is that Ian and I actually have a secret, deep bonded friendship that is way beyond in its love and grace and intimacy than what Niccole and Kayla have.
There's few things on this earth that can probably describe our relationship.
Yeah.
It's too sacred to talk about on this podcast.
Right.
But we're here to talk about you guys in recovery. But yes, let's. Okay, so
Well, can I ask the first question? This
please.
time? Because I just really want to know, why did you guys decide to come on the show? Just give me the whatever, quick and dirty version.
That's a great question.
Or a straightforward, unashamed version. But
Right, here's the unashamed version. If you had asked me a year ago if I would have come on this podcast, I would have said, hell no. This is something that is very outside of my wheelhouse. I'm uncomfortable talking about myself and about my addiction. But my first boot camp that I went to, Wanship in 2000.
warriorheart.com, go to boot camp.
My first boot camp. After that, I was really into God. I feel like he was really into me, and I was wanting to know what he wanted me to do to help keep my recovery moving forward. And I think the words that came to my mind repeatedly were "stop hiding."
Oh, let's go.
So he and this podcast just kept coming to my mind and over again. So I just reached out to Jeremy, and he said, "Let's do this."
Sweet. Did you consult Niccole first, or you just went for it?
I think I wanted to go for it, but I did consult Niccole. We've talked about before. So
Niccole, why did you decide to come on the show? Because you could have said no, right?
Yeah, I could have said no. I think, honestly, when he asked me, I was I was a little bit shocked that he asked, because I didn't, again, he'd said a year ago that was the last thing that he would have done.
Yeah.
And so when he asked me, I think that I was just so, in admiration of where he was at in his recovery, that he even wanted to talk about it, and that he knew, regardless of nerves or any shame around it, that speaking the story, even if nobody heard it or one person heard it, that it helped or something like that, I was in admiration that that's where he had gotten to.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to be in full support of however he wanted to share that.
Love that.
Well, I love that you're supporting him, and I love that you feel inspired. Now, why are you really here? Because it's like when people go to church. I'm like, why do you go to church? They're like, well, because to worship God, and I love God. I'm like, I believe you, and what is stirring in your heart?
honestly, I feel like for me, it has something to do with my larger story and stepping into that. And I think this was God's way of telling me to take those first steps into my larger story. I still don't know what my larger story is for me yet, but I'm just trying to see where this road takes me.
I think for me, it's because I felt really alone in this for a long time. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that feel the same. And I used to listen to other people's stories and they were helpful, but sometimes I couldn't relate. And I wanted to hear more of that. Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
So tell us the story.
And you want my story?
Take us to the beginning.
Take us to the beginning. All right. Born and raised here in Utah, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the predominant religion here in Utah, and was introduced to pornography probably around, I say 11, but I think it happened earlier than that. I just don't honestly remember, but I remember for sure the first time I saw pornography, and it was around age 11. Went on believing that I was the only young man in the church who struggled with pornography, and so decided that there was no way that I would tell anybody about my addiction ever. So until my dad one day caught me with pornography, and he basically kind of slapped me on the wrist and said, "Don't do that anymore." And that was like, okay, I have no idea how to stop, but okay. And that was the last conversation.
Just kind of left it at that.
Yeah, just left it at that.
How old were you when you had that conversation with Dad?
Yeah, that was probably between 12 and 13 when that happened.
Conversation.
Right.
Air quotes if you're not watching on YouTube. And we're on YouTube, so go check us out. But I'm just checking in, you at 12 or 13 had the concept of, I don't know how to stop doing this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, to be honest, before that point, I didn't really think it was anything that bad. I think I was too young to understand like, hey, this might be something that
could be detrimental.
Is harmful or detrimental to me. Until my dad brought it up, and he said, it was right before Christmas, and when he brought it up and told me how bad it was and I needed to stop, he was, said, I was really worried that he was going to go tell my mom, and my mom was going to be pissed, and then I was going to lose Christmas. I was going to be grounded forever, but he said, no. I'm going to wait until Mom because I don't want to ruin Christmas. And so right then I was like,
whoa,
oh shit.
We stepped on a couple things right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that instantly, I think looking back, obviously that introduced a lot of shame surrounding this addiction. And of course, I don't know that he ever told my mom about it after that, but I kind of went throughout my teenage years living a shameful and hidden life. This behind the scenes of just being addicted to pornography, going to church and putting on that smiling face every day. In my congregation, I was the golden boy, and so of course I couldn't tell anybody about it.
Which, if you're not watching on YouTube, this dude's like Brad Pitt. That's why James and I quit, aren't interrupting all the time. We're just like, will you sell my shirt, bro?
Right. And so
that's knowing laughter, Niccole. Don't think I did.
And that even made me not want to tell anybody even more, because if I told like my bishop, for example, that I was addicted to pornography, and he said, hey, you can't take the sacrament anymore because you've got this harmful behavior that everyone's going to know, and I'm going to be outed, and I'm no longer the golden child. And so I think I thrived on that validation that being that person in my congregation provided me. And so, yeah, there was no chance in hell that anyone was going to figure this out, and went through my mission, didn't tell anybody. And it wasn't even until I came home from my mission, maybe a couple years after, that I finally was able to man up, and I shouldn't say even man up, but find the courage to tell someone about it.
Out of curiosity, where'd you serve?
California Redlands Mission.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So who's God for you in this process? Like, God of Ian's youth is...
What's he like?
A very disappointed God. And that for me, like growing up, I had to earn God's love, especially when I acted out. And so if I didn't, feel guilt or extreme amounts of shame, then God wouldn't see that I was sorry enough, and that he wouldn't see that I don't know, I felt like I had to kind of mentally beat myself up in order for God to see me.
Feel you there, bro. Feel you there, yeah.
Tell us the story, Niccole. Who's Niccole? Because you're how old when you guys met?
I was 18.
So tell us that whole story, you meeting, how you got into this with him.
The story of him and I meeting?
Well, and who you were before that. Like, what was growing up years for you?
Growing up years, maybe who was God for you? What
Yeah.
was God's personality like for you at that time?
Did you do church? Didn't do church? Family was crazy? Family was perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family was not perfect. So mom and dad got divorced when I was 3. Dad was also addicted to porn, but he was on the end of the spectrum of like, no, I'm not. Like, it's not a thing. And so mom left when I was about 3. And mom and dad went to 2 separate states, and it was just kind of like the divorced kid, back and forth, back and forth. And dad's addiction kind of waxed and waned in severity as we. So I kind of grew up around it a little bit.
So at what point did you recognize that this was a thing for your dad, and that was this pinned on as the reason for the divorce?
Yeah, I think when I was old enough to understand like what was going on, like when I honestly don't remember the age. It was like definitely before, probably like 9, 10 or something, I want to say.
So we're like in elementary school.
So we're like young, yeah. And mom is trying to like very vaguely explain like porn addiction. And dad not willing to like talk about it, deal with anything, and so she left. So I knew that was going on. He wouldn't, obviously never talk about it. He had a pretty big temper, and his, like, he spiraled pretty quick.
I'm going to do this because it's bugging me in my OCD. And I'm so happy, thank you.
Great. So kind of watching dad bouncing back and forth, mom and dad's house, I did church, same church, Church of Jesus Christ. But I think God for me was pretty transactional, the way he was explained to me. If you do this, then God will bless you with this. So it kind of felt like earning behavior a little bit. And I think for like really early on, I developed like a pretty nasty anger towards God, I think. I knew he was there. I didn't question that he was there and that he knew me personally even, but I was pretty angry about just my life and the cards that I'd been dealt, and mom and dad and all of that. And I think maybe because of dad's addiction, I personally got into, I got involved with guys at a really, really young age, and got into some kind of scary situations, different things like that.
Help me understand what you mean when you say scary situations.
I think that I got the idea from a pretty young age that if I want attention or if I want love, that it's earned by like what I look like and what I'm willing to give. So you have dad who has a porn addiction, and there's lots of women in and out of the house, and I wasn't getting that love from dad. And so what I was seeing is if I want that love and if I want that validation, that I need to look a certain way and I need to be willing to give myself in a certain way. And that was, from a pretty young age. And so I think that kind of set the stage for the next several years of my teenage and into adult life.
So how did you see yourself in those growing up years? Like your identity?
Oh. Man, I think I don't know that I felt like I had an identity of my own. I thought it was whatever I need to do to get love and acceptance from other people. Yeah. And when I started kind of getting involved with those things that I knew were contrary to what people were telling me at church, what I should be doing, should and should not be doing with boys, I think there was a ton of shame. I think I was running from God in the other direction. I just knew like I knew he was there, and I knew that he knew what I was doing, but I'm like, he's so pissed at me. I can't, like, I don't even want him to look at my face.
Well, that reminds me of, and you can tell me if this resonates, the author of The Shack, whatever his name is, he talks in the movie The Heart of Man. Have you guys seen that? Excellent film if you haven't listening. You'll bawl your eyes out. It'll put a notch in your belt in recovery for sure. The Heart of Man is what it's called, independent Christian film. But author of The Shack is on there, and he said, yeah, I had a woman write me a letter, and she said, you know, the reason I like Satan more than God, because at least with Satan I know where I stand.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. I feel like Satan pretty much outlined, like, yeah, definitely like knew who I was, and that's who I was playing for.
Yeah. So how does this thing happen with this guy over here?
So yeah, I feel like I was a baby when we met. We met in like a college math class, and I think I had just decided that I was interested in kind of coming back to church and finding God again, and maybe rediscovering some of those parts of myself. And he and I met, and
wait, how did that happen? You're in situations
you're running from God,
which
and now you're like, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in situations that you described as either where you shouldn't be morally, sexually, or whatever, to also situations that what I'm making up were not safe.
Yeah. You know
To
what?
then like, hey, I think I'm gonna like
To turning that around.
turn that around.
Yeah, I remember when I came home from church one day, and I was really young, and somebody had said something to me at church and just like humiliated me in front of all the girls. They knew what I'd been doing, and I was kind of used as an example in the lesson of like what we shouldn't be doing.
Whoa.
And I came home and I told my mom, I said, I'm never going back if that's what church is, and if that's his church, if that's God's church, I'm not going. And she said I would do the same. She said, I don't blame you, and if you ever decide to go back, it needs to be for you and not for the people. And I just watched my mom live that, and I watched her be the divorced mom with rebellious kids in the middle of a really judgmental culture, and she kept going, and I think that piqued my curiosity as to what kind of God she knew. And so I did. I think I got
shout out to moms.
shout out to mom. Yeah. So I think I just got curious about who God was, not in the way that he was explained to me, and I was curious about how he really felt about me.
Have you ever told your mom that?
Oh yeah. Mom
Like,
and I are like this.
This experience? Like, Mom, this is how you influenced me?
Yep. 100%.
All right. Just making sure the mom heard that, because I
That's
think
awesome.
She absolutely
she
has.
deserves it. Okay, so you meet this guy in math class. Like, that's real in college.
Oh, we didn't pass that math class.
We didn't pass.
We had to retake it later on.
Yeah.
Together?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. It was meant to be.
That's
It
right.
was.
So you're going to school where?
Salt Lake Community College at the time.
Okay, go Bruins. So you're hanging out in Bruin Town, right?
Yep.
So you're just sitting in class, and he's like, what's up?
No.
And you're like, hey.
No, that's,
okay.
no, yeah, he was like so quiet on the back row.
No.
And
This guy?
Yeah. And I walked in and like I was like in hot pink, like really loud, and I was like, oh, he's cute. So I went and sat like right next to him on the back row.
Well, yeah, it's
Actually,
like,
hold
I
on.
see
To be
Brad Pitt. I'm going to go sit by
Yeah.
Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I actually saw her first, and I said, "Oh, she's the
Ooh,
cutest girl
eye
in this
roll.
class."
Ooh.
And I went and sat next to her, but that was as far as I went.
Ooh,
She-
a controversial
she
start
made the
beginning to
first,
this story.
she
Only
made
the
first
book of
talk
life
to
will
you.
tell us
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah, that's true.
So disclosure before you got married? Yes, no?
Yes. Yep.
For both of you?
Like
You're
on the second and third date.
Yeah.
You both disclosed?
Yes.
Yes.
so you're like,
Okay.
so porn, that's a thing.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, I got some stuff.
Other way around.
You're like, I got some
Yeah.
stuff. And he's like, turns out me too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it had been a deal breaker for guys that I was dating. Like they were like, I could never marry somebody who blah blah blah. Like, and so I was like, well, I like
You
this
were
guy.
getting that.
I was getting that, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna get this out of the way because if he's gonna run, like I don't want to like him any more than I already like him. So I think it was like second date or something.
Yeah.
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 And that goes terrible. That goes well.
That goes great. I mean, I'm expecting him to like take this so hard, and he just looks me in the face and he's like, I don't care about any of it. I don't care.
And I don't think I cared because I knew that I had my own crap. And so I was like, dang, if there is this girl who can tell me all that stuff, then I feel like I can trust her with my stuff.
Love that. You get a gold star. And because I was a not disclosure before marriage, I was like, everything's fine. Like Kayla sees porn from like, well, clearly this is my roommate. He's got a problem. Gaslight, 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 and do the thing, right? So, how did you get there? Because I found, right, our own experience, we either, like the Pharisees in the Bible, get super judgmental because we can't deal with our own stuff. So we do a bunch of the projecting, right? So we get more judgmental, or our own walk, right, through real life in the desert allows us to get to a place of compassion and see others the way God would see them, right, in the empathy. So how did you, Ian, end up on that side of the fence, not the judgmental poser side of the fence?
On the on compassion.
Because I guarantee you, the other men you'd experience dating, at a minimum, some portion of them that were like, oh, I'm not dealing with that history, 100% had their own history with porn and acting out with women, and we're doing the other end of that spectrum on the Pharisee side. So how did you get there?
Yeah, so at this point, I had finally told the bishop of the ward that I was attending about my addiction. It was the first time I had ever disclosed.
Bishop, pastor,
or
ecclesiastically, if you're not LDS.
So that was the first person you told out after your dad's experience with your dad, right?
Right. Well, and I did tell my parents after I told my bishop. But that was
years later then, right?
Yes. So I told my bishop. This was maybe a couple years after my mission.
So a lot of years, I mean, we're talking a decade later. Because we're back at 12.
Right.
This is a big deal. I'm just naming, this is a big deal for you to be open about it.
This was a big deal. In fact, I was able to finally tell my parents, and that was, again, a single conversation that happened. I think my dad took my phone, put some blockers on it, and that was the last that I talked to my parents about it. And granted, I'm in my early 20s at that point.
Yeah.
And so I honestly had never fathomed being able to tell a girl about this, because I look at pornography. I'm a pervert. Like, that's the messages that I had received.
Ooh, there's a shame message for you. Whoop, exactly. That just slipped right in.
And so, of course, if I tell a girl that I'm very much interested in and about my addiction, she's going to turn tail and run. And so I think I was happy that she told me about her stuff, because, like, dang, I don't feel this way. I don't feel the way that everyone is telling me that I should feel about her. I feel like happy for her, because she told me that, you know, how much she'd grown from her challenges, and I just felt happy and excited, and I was like, cool, I can finally tell someone else about this and not be alone.
And so you told her.
So I told her, and here we
And
are.
you got married a week later, a month later.
Yeah, it was close.
Well, so you got a dad that struggled with porn. Was the reason for the divorce. How did this information hit you when he's disclosing?
So I remember having two specific thoughts when he told me. The first is same kind of the way that he reacted to me. I just felt like overwhelmed with compassion. I'm like, I don't care. And I think part of the reason was because not only did Dad have some addiction, but I knew at that point that some of my brothers had come out of the divorce with the same addiction. And so I'm watching men all over the spectrum handle this very differently.
Okay.
I'm like, love my brothers. I think they're some of the best men on the planet, and they have this addiction. So I didn't have the view that any man that struggled with this was bad.
Because you'd seen a spectrum of men dealing with it. Okay.
Because I'm seeing them deal with it in a healthier way.
But, just because I think this is a big deal, I think that's helpful. Because I think people, particularly on the spouse side, they experience it in a vacuum. And I think that's a shame that comes up a lot for men, is I already have the message that I'm a pervert. I tell and Kayla is actually someone who I've gotten this perspective from a lot. Like, she's like, because she had this experience, because I'm doing like some big wild stuff, right? And then she's with someone who's like, and I saw him, and he was looking at women in bikinis, and I'm crushed. And in her mind, she's like, in her judgment, I will say, but she's like, get some perspective, right? Or like, would see guys that are really trying, and she's like, man, this wife's being brutal, and he's really trying. So I think some perspective, right, around like not seeing it in a vacuum, because if you only have that one experience, that's where Satan comes in and makes everything 1,000 times worse, right? Right. So I think we should start a podcast where we share a lot of different people's experiences so they can get that perspective.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys would come on it or not, but okay. Well, we'll let you know.
Let us
right.
know.
Well, yeah, because if it's, again, in the secrecy, that's where it can become, where pornography or whatever, it can become this massive monster that it really doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Well, and I just think for all those people dating out there, and for all those people early in marriage and having that experience, I think you guys are like naming a lot of like, I want to be like, textbook right here. If you're going to date, here's some things, right? Because like going in, right, I imagine that it being a real gift. having that knowing and not getting surprised by the way Kayla did and other women did.
It kind of helped not being able to like actually date each other, knowing about the darkest secrets about our darkest secrets about each other right from the get-go. Yeah. We didn't have to. I didn't feel like I had
because no one was hiding stuff.
Right.
This y'all went there.
Yeah. I didn't have this like looming decision that I had to make at one point. Am I going to tell her? Am I not going to tell her? Am I going to keep hiding it? Like, what am I going to do? Like, no, we got that out of the way from the get-go, and we were able to be open. And looking back, we were able to be authentic with each other as much as we were able to at that point.
Well, and that's as someone who did it differently than you, who's someone who chose to shove it under the rug. Like, so I just had this experience with a guy I just met in public at a Hale Center play. And he's like, what do you do? I'm like this, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, we're about to get married. And I'm like, totally talk to people right before we get married. I'm like, I would just talk to you for free. We met here, like, come talk to me. And I can see his gears turning, and I want to be like, so I know the choice you're about to make about how you're going to do this, and I'm telling you, I did it, poor choice. Do the Ian and Niccole version. So I just, as someone who chose to not disclose and put it and just go, you know, what we laugh about, marriage is going to fix it, right? Or that's it, like, we did it opposites. Your way was much better. Facts. Fire, as the kids would say.
Yeah.
Or used to say, I don't know, I'm out of touch.
They probably don't say that anymore.
I don't know.
That's the lore anyways.
Yeah.
Well, that said, I think I was still very much like a baby. Like, I'm 18 years old, and he comes to me and is sharing this. And again, the first thought was compassion, and the second thought was I was like, I can help. And that, in hindsight, was like my deep dive into what we discovered as codependency. But I'm growing up, like, here's dad, and I'm watching mom help the boys with this and whatever. So I'm like, oh, he's a really great guy. This is totally fine. And I'm sure that I know how to help. And it's my job.
Yeah.
So you dove right into the rescuer role.
Yeah.
Took that one-up position right out of the gate.
At least mentally, yeah. I don't know if that's how it came across to him, but yes, in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna like.
Yeah.
If only it was here, we could ask him. How'd it come across to you?
I was gonna say,
not just like, was she like, I'm in one up and you're lucky I'm here to rescue you? Like, I'm sure that's not what you said, right? Like, it's not like Princess Bride, as you wish. Like, but like, so what was the experience of having her be like, oh, dude, I got this?
Yeah, so I don't know that she ever came out and said like, hey, I'm gonna help you through this. We're gonna get through this together. I think that it was almost implied, but I abused our codependency quite a bit, because whenever I would act out, I would be almost inconsolable until I could talk to her about it. Like, I'd be calling her on the phone like, hey, I need to come see you, and she's like, I'm in the middle of something. I can't really come. Can this wait? And I'm like, no, I've got to talk to you right now about this, because this is bugging the crap out of me. And so I don't feel like I could move on until I was able to talk to her, because she, at this point, was the only person that I could talk to about it. And so I abused her knowing about my addiction a little too much, and I thrived through that codependency quite a bit.
Yeah, so you wanted her to manage and regulate your
validation
emotions and validate that she's not going to leave you even though you looked or whatever.
And it was also, I needed validation that I was still lovable, because when I would act out, like, I was not lovable in my eyes.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't lovable. I didn't love myself. I didn't think that God loved me. I was unsure that she would love me, because I was still acting out, even though I had told her, even though I was trying to stop.
So put the timeline together for us now. So you've been married how long now?
7 years.
Okay, so in this 7-year history of being on this journey, if we were put it on a 1 to 10 scales, you started this marriage, codependency, 1, not at all, 10, hella codependent. Where were you starting?
11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
I totally think we thought it was love.
I mean, Kayla and I was a 13, but
It was like, if I love him, I'll be there for him unconditionally. And I'm sure that he thought, like, if I love her, like, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think we have a lot of music, movies, narratives around this, culture expectations that's what love, quotation marks, is a boundaryless,
and then
self-sacrificing.
clearly very much modeled, at least in your home, Niccole.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So where would you say it is today?
Well, my friend Jane taught me that as a recovering codependent. That's what we say to each other. I don't know. What number?
She does say that.
I don't know what number we would put on it. We have
What would you put you on it?
Yeah.
me.
And Ian, you be thinking of your number. We're coming to you.
I want to say like a 1 or a 2. Like, I don't think it's like completely gone. Like, I will have moments, but we catch each other like that. I mean, call each other on it, or we'll call ourselves on it, and we're like, because it's truly the thing that changed recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I would say a 1. We identified a few years ago that this was unhealthy for our marriage to have this like strong. We didn't know. I don't know that we had the label for codependency.
What? So what? You go on a date night one night and you're sitting there and you're like, "This is exhausting," and you're like, "Yeah, right," and you're like, "I think we should just do this the different, healthy way," and you're like, "Okay," and you just kind of picked that card and got back in the car, and the rest was history.
I wish.
No, I think it was a lot louder than that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, tell me about the loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it came as a result of a lot of fights and a lot of like, at least on my part, being like, I can't do this for you anymore. Like, I can't carry me and carry you, and at the time, like the language around it was like, you've got to figure something out. Like, tell me what's going to be different. I need you to tell me what's different this time.
So can we back up the bus just a little bit then?
Skirt.
Okay.
Oh, it's a bus. Sorry. Beep, beep, beep.
So talk more for those that are listening, or those that are entering a relationship right now, or that are early in a relationship, mistaking love, right? Mistaking codependency for love.
And if you want an answer to that question, listen to the bonus content, Become an Outsider. So, hold on to that one, because that's going to be bigger than we're going to fit into this episode. Who we did that? Okay, so what was the louder? What changed in the story? Because I always think of the people listening to this, and I'm like, cool, whatever, we're 30 whatever minutes to the episode, got your story, whatever, and then you just say that thing like, really, from an 11 to a 1? So if I'm someone back in my codependency, I'm like, she's full of crap. Mm-hmm. Like, so like, because like, what was the change in the loud, like what happened that really caused the change?
And who started to pull on the lever first? There usually is one of you that pulls on that codependency lever first.
I think I did. And I
Ian's
remember,
nodding, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It was like a pretty tense time where like we were out of state in grad school, like under a lot of stress, and like the addiction is naturally kind of like spiraling. He's traveling a lot, we're apart a lot, and it just is feeling a little bit unbearable. And I was talking to somebody on the phone, just like somebody who was close to us that I had been confiding in about this, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like he's emotionally gone. Like don't know how many times like I've dropped the divorce card. Like I hint at it in every conversation we have. I'm just like, I can't do this. And
Codependently hinting.
Yes.
Passive aggressively, yes.
Great.
Very much. And I remember 2 things said to me. The first one, it might as well have been God like smacking me in the face, but they said, Nick, you don't have the right to condemn him, and you don't have the power to save him.
Oh, dang. Say that one more time.
Yeah, he said, you don't have the right to condemn Ian, and you also don't have the power to save him. And I remember in that moment that God was like, I'm sitting there like on the bathroom floor, and I'm like, well, fine, God, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I can't hold this anymore. It's not mine. And like, I love him, but he's gone mentally. Like, what do you want me to do? And yeah, I heard it again. He's like, put it down. Like, it wasn't, I didn't ask you to carry it, and neither did Ian, but you picked it up and you ran with it. Like, put it down. It's not yours. And so Ian came home from a trip that he was on, and I remember specifically the conversation. I went to him and I was like, I can't be this like accountability person for you. I can't be like the one-stop shop whenever something happens. I remember I put some boundaries in place. Like, whenever you have a slip up, I don't want to be the first person that you talk to. I need you to have somebody.
Ooh, a good boundary.
Nice.
So that was the lever.
Good.
Meaning talk to someone first. Not I'm unwilling to talk to you about
Yes.
it or don't want to know. Just
I
you
just
have
don't
to
wanna be
talk
the
to someone
first
first.
Like, I want to hear about it, and I do, like, obviously we need honesty. I need you to keep telling me, but I don't,
Right.
I can't carry the initial, yeah.
Awesome.
So she pulls on the lever.
She pulls on the lever, and that was, at the time, I was thinking, dang, she's given up on me. She's been my rock for this many years. I think at this point we'd been married 4 or 5 years. I don't remember exactly, but I thought, man, she's given up on me. And when I was able to finally take a step back and view it kind of from her perspective, she was setting a healthy boundary, and so I had to figure out how to talk to somebody about it first before telling her, because my gut reaction every single time I would slip up would be going straight to her,
Right.
for that validation, for that pick me up, that I need someone to help dig me out of this shame pit that or not dig me out, but lift me out of this shame pit that I'm in. And so it was hard. I think it was hard for me for a little bit, but I was finally able to find someone else that I could talk to about it, and I've slowly began to.
How did you find that person?
It was someone who had confided in me their addiction, and so I was able to call that person whenever I felt comfortable calling that person, because they had talked to me about their addiction.
Okay.
I had told them about my addiction, and so we were able to kind of go back and.
So it turns out being unashamed about your story
Actually helps people.
But it works. Now, granted, I don't feel like I was that I was still pretty ashamed of my story, so I only the circle. Circle.
Hold on, wait a minute. This is the guy who had not said a word to anyone between ages 12 and after his mission, adult, 20s, whatever,
Right.
and then confided in one other person so much that it made the codependency an 11.
Yes.
Because it was so intense, all had to be in one person. And then you're going to tell me sharing your story with someone else was not a big deal and minimize it.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I minimized it at the time because I didn't.
Well, I'm calling you out for minimizing it right now.
Fair enough. I was gonna say at the time I definitely minimized it.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a big deal for you.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
I think anyone listening, just hearing your personality and show, like, for you to like, she pulls on this lever and she's like, bro, no.
Yeah.
Like, for you to just have to go find someone, unless there's parts of your story I don't know that you're leaving out, like, that are pertinent here, like, that feels like a big move for you.
It was, yeah. A scary move. Absolutely a scary move for sure. Because for the longest time, I thought I was the only guy struggling with pornography. Or if I wasn't the only guy, we were far and few in between.
Yeah.
And so the more that I've kind of broadened my circle of trust, the more I found that there's lots of men, all of them almost, that struggle with pornography in some way, shape, or form.
And so with those guys, you were able to take the brunt of like your shame spiraling, the brunt of your like, oh, I'm such a terrible person, and kind of get settled and regulated again before you could then talk to Niccole and be like, hey, in honesty and in our boundaries and contract, I just want to let you know where I'm at, or that I had a slip or whatever, and I've talked to some guys and I'm okay.
Exactly. That's exactly how it would go. I would just say, hey, like, this happened. I had a slip up. I viewed pornography. I masturbated. This is what I have done since then. I've talked with so-and-so, and I have worked through this. This is where I'm at. I'm feeling good.
And what was that like for you to have the conversation turn like that?
At first it was a little bit scary. Like, I wanted to jump in and be like, well, what did they say? Well, did they give you any good resources? Well, what did they tell you to do next? Like, I really wanted to control that. Like, I wanted to know that he was going to choose recovery, and I wanted to choose that for him, and I wanted to tell him exactly what that looked like, because I thought I knew. So at first it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then gradually, I think the more that I would sit with God about it, and he would reassure me, like, I need you to let go all the way, not just like one hand, all the way, and I've got him, and it's not your job. Yes. Yes.
Can I keep a finger on it though?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It started to feel so much better. Like, I was just so emotionally detached, not from him, but from the responsibility of needing to fix him.
So, a couple different things. So, well, tell us about sobriety today. That's the question we're asked. So we're talking about the codependency today, because I'm going to follow up a couple of questions. So tell us about the sobriety today.
Yeah, sobriety is it's an ongoing process. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's days, months. But sobriety is still in process. I don't have years of sobriety.
Sure.
I'm not.
Pointing over here to the Hulk of Hope sitting off stage. He's whatever. Years.
But
decades.
I feel like
I mean, he's not as old as James, but
Getting there, buddy.
Yeah.
so my follow-up question then is, how do you, Niccole, feel safe or have hope? Because it's the metric for people in so many circles and ways. So a lot of people listening will be like, well, I don't know what denial this couple's in, but good for you. Sounds like you've gotten nowhere, but right?
Yeah.
So to that, right?
Yeah.
Because if we just are a sobriety only camp, I go like, well, cool. If you slipped earlier this week, that's 1 week. So we're getting advice from the guy who has a week of sobriety, right? But which is why I'm curious about where you're at, right? Is tell us about, does it feel different being in this marriage? Is there more trust, more intimacy, more, and why?
Yeah. I would say specifically in the last year, our relationship has felt entirely different than it ever has. And so from that standpoint, I'm not fixated on the behavior. I'm not worried about it. I think there's been some really incredible people who have helped us along our individual recoveries that I now definitely understand, like, the behavior is a byproduct. It started as a byproduct of hurt and a lot of other things that needed to be addressed, and that's still what it is. And so I have witnessed Ian completely change, and just, I heard him say in the kitchen the other day, like, I actually am starting to love who I am. And it was like, I've never in our marriage since I've known him heard those words out of his mouth. And so I don't care how long it takes the behavior to follow. I care that he's finding himself, and he is, and that has, like, it's huge. And I feel completely safe. I don't have any doubt that he'll continue to fight for himself. I fight for myself.
Yeah, because you're not going to rescue him, not anymore. Yep.
No.
Yeah.
And
So you're watching him swim.
Yeah. I think I have every reason to hope.
Yeah.
Love that. For you, good sir.
Yeah.
Same question.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. How do you know it's different?
Yeah. I know it's different because, like she said, I have, after years and years of self-loathing and deciding, like, I am not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of God's love, that I firmly believe now that God, He loves me. I've had some undeniable experiences, even just recently, that God has expressed His immense love for me, and it has just totally changed my perspective about how I view the behavior, how I view myself, and I've realized that I'm more than this addiction that I've been struggling with for 15 years. I don't know how long it's been. I feel like it's been forever, but that I'm more than my addiction. I'm a son of God, and He loves me. He doesn't care about this behavior. He cares about how I view myself. He wants me to love me the way that He loves me.
Awesome. And so with that knowing that you now have, I'd be curious what you would say to a 12-year-old boy who's really concerned that if his mom found out that he was looking at porn, that he's going to lose Christmas and that she's not going to want him. And so if that little 12-year-old boy, worried about losing Christmas, were sitting here right now, with that knowing, Ian, what would you tell him?
The first thing I would do is give that boy the biggest hug in the world and tell him that he's not alone, because dang, I felt so alone. Even after my dad caught me, I still felt alone. I felt like I had no guidance, nowhere to go, because I was just told that I had this destructive behavior that I needed to get rid of, and he didn't know what to do with it. I think the first thing I would do is, give him the biggest hug and tell him there's nothing you can do to make God love you any more or any less. God loves you 100% of the time. And I feel like if my 12-year-old self had heard that, that would have changed my whole teenage years. Because I went through for a long time believing that I was not lovable. And that every time that I would act out, God would punish me. And that everything was my fault.
It sounds like in that change it has.
Yeah.
And to you, my good friend Niccole, in your knowing now that you're safe and it's going to happen, not managing, what would you say to that sweet teenage girl who believes her worth and the way she's going to get intention as love is based on how she looks and what she can give? If she were sitting here, what would you tell her?
Oh, man.
Who had modeled for her the divorce, a divorced kid going in and out, right? Being dealt bad cards, watching all these women go in and out.
You know, I would tell her, it doesn't matter at that point who showed up to fight for her and who should have been and who, all the shoulds and all the stuff that I was mad at God about. It didn't matter that I had the dad I did or any of that. Because I had a God who was fighting for me, and the way that he saw me and the person he told me I was everything I needed.
Who does he see you as? Who does he tell you you are?
I think he thinks I'm a badass. Yeah, I think he thinks that I am totally capable and yes, capable and strong and capable of carrying it all, but that I also don't need to. I think that he thinks I'm worthy as I am, and it doesn't matter what I look like or what I give to other people or what I do and don't with my body, that my worth is not up for negotiation.
Indeed it is not. Ian and Niccole, thank you so much for coming on. As I think you know, we always end our episodes with a song when people share their story. So a song that represents your guys' journey, your story.
Yeah. This was a tough one for us. We've got lots of songs that we really love. But,
You only get one.
we only get one.
So the one right now.
The one right now is we decided to go with You Are Enough by Citizen Soldier.
You're getting some fist pumps back here. You're enough by Citizen Soldier.
Yeah.
So if you want the answer to that juicy question that James asked earlier and many more, we invite you to join us for the bonus content. Okay, Ella Wilhite, who is offstage, texted that to James, who happened to ask it. Credit where credit's due. She's back there waving her hand at me like, that was mine. Indeed. And also, if we invite you to donate at unashamedandunafraid.com to help us with this movement and get in that bonus content. And our outsiders are those bold, accepted, and unashamed. So we will see you in a minute on the bonus content. Invite you to join us and invite you to help us this movement in a way you can by sharing this episode, telling other people about it. If you believe you have a story and want to reach out to us, we love building the community recovery. So let us know. And give us 5 stars on iTunes, because that's how the whole world judges us and the algorithm things work. So even if you're not listening on iTunes, go log in and give us those stars, because that's how everyone copies it and has it go through. Find us on socials at Unashamed and Afraid. And email any of us, James is the one who has all the fans. That's what everyone knows. James at Unashamed and Afraid. He loves to hear from his posse, from his fan group.
Yo.
So send him an
Hit
email.
me up, folks.
So send him some love. And with that, our song is
You Are Enough by
Citizen Soldiers. Soldier or soldiers?
Soldier.
I always mess them up. Soldier, right?
Yeah.
Citizen Soldier. And until we're able to be with us again, we continue to invite you to be unashamed.